I'm not sure how much younger viewers care about E3, so you'll have to let me know in the comments down below because I'm actually interested to kind of gauge that. Hey, I'm a teenager, here's what I think about E3. Hey, I'm an adult, I've been gaming for 30 years, here's what I think. That kind of thing would be interesting for me to see from you because the news came out a few days ago that E3 2023 has been canceled. Now, this is nothing new, and I know that. We found this out a couple days ago. But since it is April Fool's Day, and I believe last year or the year before, I made a video about how much I absolutely despise today, because you can't really talk about anything. Everybody's just making news stories up. Like, some of them are crazy, some of them are very believable, and so because of that, it's almost impossible to talk about anything new today, because everybody on the internet is like the most unfunny person of all time today, right? So I thought it would be interesting to actually talk about it a little bit since we know it's a real confirmed story. There's nothing I can really make up about it. And I didn't remember how far back this went. I remembered last year's E3 was canceled as well in 2022. Back then they acted like it was a contained incident of, well, that's just what happened this year. Still there's the pandemic and all this other stuff, right? In 2021, they had also canceled it because of the pandemic and then just done an online thing. So it still technically happened, but then 2022 was fully canceled, and now 2023 has been fully canceled. Now, I don't necessarily think E3 is never going to come back, but I think in terms of a gaming announcement platform for entertainment and video games and stuff like that, E3 is not what it was. That much is obvious, and honestly, I think it's pretty much on its way out the door when it comes to gaming. Yes, maybe this will be a good platform for some indie developers in the future, I don't really know, although I think things like PAX and other shows are probably better for that. E3 actually way back, it wasn't even about video games, it was just about tech. Over time, it became more and more about gaming, and then it became a very snobbish industry thing. It was very much about games journalists back when they were taken seriously, because I'm going to be honest, most are not now. Maybe a few are, but most are not because of the just overwhelmingly political landscape of games journalism where people would rather talk about the pandemic and why they feel bad about buying a PlayStation 5 than the actual review of a PS5. People don't really trust or care about games journalists anymore as a whole. But back when this show was big for gaming and really mattered, that was sort of the crowd it appealed to. And then it couldn't really decide, did it want to be just a for everyone thing? Like, hey, anybody can pay to go to E3. Like, if you're a YouTuber, you can get in. If you're a normal person, you can pay and get in. Or do we just want to focus on games journalists? And as games journalists as a whole lost a lot of different, I would say, sources of backing when it comes to public opinion over time, especially I would say from the time of the infamous Gamergate situation all the way to today. As those people started to lose a little bit of their relevance and become a much more niche industry, so too did E3 kind of try and expand to the general audience and bring in just anybody, It wasn't a big deal if you were a normal dude who wanted to go to E3 and pay money for a little bit. That was something you could kind of do. But now it's kind of gone back in on itself and just collapsed. Because over time, what was happening, and I saw a very interesting article about this a while back. I don't remember who it was from, but it was something interesting to me. They talked a little bit about the repercussions of E3 and what happened to companies who went. And game sales themselves could be, in a way, at least directly influenced slightly by online opinion because of E3. There was a lot of stuff outside of the control of the presenters. There was a lot of stuff outside of the control of the companies that would show up. You had to rely on that venue. You had to rely on people around you. You had to rely on the person presenting before or after you to not make a fool out of themselves and either draw away from you or draw negative attention onto you. There was a lot of problems with E3. There were risks involved from going there. Now what's happened in a lot of ways is these companies have very much moved towards a very, what would you say, walled garden approach. It's very much the idea of, hey, well, why would we, Nintendo, want to go and risk looking stupid at E3 or risk technical failure at E3 or risk somebody else doing something that gets egg on our face or makes us look bad when we could just run Nintendo Direct? Oh, hey, why would we at EA or why would we at Ubisoft want to show up to this thing if we could just do this? Like that kind of idea has been really prevalent now in the gaming infrastructure. And it's interesting because as more and more companies have pulled out, a question keeps being, hey, what's going to happen to this show? 2022 was one of those times where I thought, the show seems kind of dead when it comes to gaming since it got canceled. But hey, maybe it is a closed off situation. Maybe this is just a one-off. And, you had 2021, it still happened virtually. 2022, hey, maybe they're doing their best. Well, 2023, now it's just not happening at all, digitally or in person. They did have a joint statement about it saying this was a difficult decision because of all the effort we and our partners put towards making this event happen, but we had to do what's right for the industry and what's right for E3. We appreciate and understand that interested companies wouldn't have playable demos ready, and that resourcing challenges made being at E3 this summer an obstacle they couldn't overcome. So in a way, they actually blamed the companies that still are interested in E3 and basically said, hey, their demos wouldn't be done by the time of E3, and also they couldn't make it. They then said, for those who did commit to E3 2023, we're sorry we can't put on the showcase you deserve, and that you come to expect from ReedPop's event experiences. I think in some ways it's about risk versus reward. Why would you bother with the idea of going and messing around at a venue where things outside of your control can happen, and other people can make you look good or bad? Reddit can absolutely destroy you. There's just a lot going on there. And you have to deal with in-person event planning. It's all this crap, right? Or you can do a very carefully curated Nintendo Direct-like show where you know exactly what's going to be on the screen, exactly when it's going to be on the screen. You know exactly what light you are shining your company in. You have plenty of time to pre-rehearse and pre-record all of it. Basically, you can just record everything ahead of time and then live stream the recording. Why bother with doing something much more risky than that if there's no risk involved in your own walled garden experience? From a logistics standpoint, at that point, there's just no real reason to do so. So over time, I think we'll see more and more people actually back out of E3. I do think that one of the frustrating things was that Konami was supposedly going to be unveiling something here and doing something at E3. But honestly, I don't even think they need it. I mean, we saw the Silent Hill transmission. Tons and tons of people tuned in for that. It had nothing to do with any orchestrated venue showing or any kind of convention or anything. Even Konami, with all of their years basically outside of the video game sphere, was still able to draw a ton of attention by doing the Silent Hill transmission, and that franchise had been basically dead for years. It seems like we're at a point where the niche interest market of different things is so tuned into each company in general that they don't need E3. They don't need a big convention. They don't need any of this. What they need is a live stream of their own that they can pre-record and then post whatever they want and just basically get all the attention they could ever want in the exact light that they want. And because of that, I think E3 is going to continue to fade in relevance. I wouldn't be surprised if at some point there's some kind of renaissance. I have no idea. Because at the end of the day, I don't know if people will always be interested in tuning into 50 different mini presentations in order to see what games are coming up. I mean, I do some of this stuff for a living, and even I don't care about all of them. So I think the general market, the general consumer market at some point will also get tired of that, feeling like they have to keep up with every show or every whatever. But at the end of the day, they also just don't have to. There's plenty of consumers who don't care about any of this, and they're just fine seeing a trailer drop on YouTube, or not even that, and just seeing something pop up on the shelf at their local retailer, looking at it, looking it up online, seeing if it looks good, and then buying it that way. So there's a lot of different types of consumers, there's a lot of different types of companies, and because of the cancellation of E3 2023, I think it's just another nail in the coffin for its relevance in gaming, but I'm interested to hear your thoughts. Again, I want to know, general age group of you, do you know what you or people your general age group that you know, obviously in your area, think about this show? Do you care about live shows? Do you care about any of this stuff? Like, if you cared about Nintendo, would you want to just watch a Nintendo Direct? Would you want to see them at E3? Same goes for Ubisoft or EA or Activision or any of these people, Bethesda, whatever. You know, is this something that matters to you? Do any of these announcements matter to you, or do you just like to see them pop up on the shelf or whatever? I'm interested to hear that down below, because I do think all the time the patronage of people who pay attention to this stuff changes, and so do the temperaments and the interests. And because of that, the games still sell, obviously, but the way to market them changes. I also think that I will add at the end here, not to toot my own horn, but the rise of the content creator, and also the rise of just even things like the average Twitter user. You know, you can just be a normal old person and you can get a YouTube following of 1 million, or you can get a Twitter following of 50,000, and all of a sudden you have a bigger voice. I think that those things are very detrimental to things like games journalism as a whole. I think they're very detrimental to things like E3, where it's supposed to be all eyes on me, I'm E3, look at me, and just anybody can have a voice that's huge too. I think that with those things happening, the corporate venue style presentation house type thing has become less and less relevant and less necessary in the modern age. But I'm interested to hear your thoughts down below. Please be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed this video, subscribe for more content. I appreciate you very, very much. If you want to support this channel in any other ways, channel memberships are up. We now have a secondary channel, which is King of Creepy. I do horror narrations and other stuff over there. My wife Jill has a channel where she's doing Pokemon videos, Sailor Moon, toy unboxings and reviews, and more. That's Magical Jill. And there is also our store run by my wonderful wife, Enchanted Glamour. That's GLAMOR.com, where you can buy comic book resin pieces from repurposed comic books. There's also all kinds of fantastic jewelry and more stuff down there in the description if you want to check it out and help support the channel. It means the world to us. Have a fantastic day, and as always, everyone, stay shui.